Open up the door, it's Dave! Who?
This past week, after the big game you might have heard about, Patrick Mahomes, who was the star quarterback for the Chiefs and wound up being the MVP of the game, say this famous line.
Patrick Mahomes, you and the Kansas City Chiefs have just won the Super Bowl. What are you going to do next?
We're going to Disneyland!
Now, of course, it used to be all about Disney World. Now it's about whichever park is closest to where the Super Bowl is being played, which makes sense, I guess, to a large degree. But did you ever wonder what the story was behind this particular phrase? I've got you covered. So the story is that back in 1986, a pilot and aviator, kind of a famous guy by the name of Dick Rutan, flew nonstop around the world without refueling in his plane. It was something that had never been accomplished before. Someone had never circumnavigated the globe in an airplane without ever stopping to refuel. It's kind of an interesting thing. So it was a really big feat, and it was kind of exciting and interesting. A few weeks after he completed his now infamous flight, he went to dinner with some celebrity types. He was there with his brother Bert, who was a designer. He was there with the Eisner family. He was there with some other celebrities. And they're talking and they're sharing stories and having some fun. And Jane Eisner, Michael's wife, looked at Dick and said, "Dick, you've traveled all around the world at this point in your plane. What are you going to do next?" And he looks at her and without missing a beat says, "I'm going to Disney World." And she thought that was a tremendously funny and clever thing to say. And so she and Michael talked about using that in some way to help the Disney company. Michael Eisner started talking to the advertising people, some of the marketing people, about how they could leverage that. If Dick Rutan, who had just done something amazing that no one had ever done before, was able to say that, maybe they could use it in promotional materials for other things that they might do to say people are going to want to go to Disney World after they complete something really amazing. And so the marketing team set about coming up with a plan for this. And they thought about the Super Bowl was a great opportunity to first use this. So after the 1986 season and the 1987 Super Bowl, the Disney company approached the quarterbacks for both teams that were playing in the Super Bowl. You had Phil Simms, who was playing for the Giants, and John Elway, who was playing for the Denver Broncos. And they asked each of them if they would be willing to film a 3-second spot just to say, "I'm going to Disney World," once the game ended, assuming that their team won. And so there was a film crew and a couple of Disney people on either side of the stadium waiting for the game to end so they could find that person and have them say the line. Of course, the Giants won the Super Bowl, and the first time we ever heard this line uttered in the public was,
Phil Simms, you just won the Super Bowl. What are you doing next?
I'm going to go to Disney World.
Yep, Phil Simms saying it after the 1987 Super Bowl when they beat the Broncos. Kind of an exciting moment and a seminal time. Now it's been over 35 years, and this phrase still gets used all the time, and it's thought of constantly when people think about what are they going to do next. I'm going to Disney World. And people think about it with some of the things that they do. When people have some fun, they're thinking about, I'm going to Disney World. And of course, now it's Disneyland as well. Now, of course, after the game, what they do is they have a plane waiting to take the player, and now the player and his family, to the park. Used to be, would always be Disney World, so sometimes it was a longer flight to get to the park in Florida. But now it's whichever park is closer. So in this case, since the game was in Las Vegas, they flew him to Disneyland. And they'll take the player and his family to the park. They take them usually overnight. They let them celebrate for as long as they want to. They'll have the plane waiting. They'll pick them up. They'll take them out to the park. They put them up for the night. And the next day, they'll be in the park for a parade. And they're there just celebrating with the fans that are in the park. And if you're lucky enough to be there the day after the Super Bowl, it is kind of an exciting thing to have happen. I've had it happen to me a couple of times where I was in the park the day that the player was there. And I thought it was really cool. It was just kind of neat to be able to experience that because it's a non-traditional parade in the sense that they just kind of throw it together. They have the Super Bowl champion, they have him up on the pedestal there, and they have him go around. Now, as I understand it, there's a small amount of money that changes hands here. If I'm not mistaken, the amount was very small back when Phil Simms did it in 1987, and it was something like, $50,000 or something. The amount is larger now, but it's the bigger benefit that you get this celebrity, this endorsement, and your family is getting a trip to Disney World. While you're going there for a whirlwind trip just to go and have this moment in the sun, you do get another opportunity to go back at Disney's expense, as I understand it. It could be a little bit wrong, but anyway, the principle is that they have an opportunity to go back another time and really enjoy the parks and take it in and have fun time with their families and have some fun with it. So that's the story of how they came up with I'm going to Disney World. So when you hear people say that, now you know why they say it after the game. I hope you enjoyed the story and have a great day.
What's your point, David?